getting a grant and delivering a project under a grant funding program starts way before you get the grant. You have to commit to really plan your project well.
What is a grant? Grants are money that are given away for a specific purpose. So they are for a project, which means that whatever it is that you're seeking money for, a grant for, must have a beginning date, an end date, and it must have something you will deliver, outcomes or benefits that you will deliver.
Same. So the process of writing a grant for me is, first step is the grant guidelines. I don't go anywhere before I check the eligibility. There is no point in me wasting my time writing anything if the organisation is not eligible. Now, what I wanted to talk to you about today is something that I have often spoken about and written about, which is the misconception that grant money is free money or it's easy money. It's neither. It is quite a process as
all assessors are looking for the same two things. So there's two key areas that you need to make sure you address in your grant response. One of them is that you need to make sure that you are giving them a project that meets their objectives. So why are they paying money? Why are they giving away money? They're doing it for a reason. They have objectives they need to meet. So you need to prove that your project will meet those objectives and how it will meet those objectives. The second thing you need to prove is that this project that is going to meet their objectives wonderfully is actually going to be able to be delivered by you. So you are capable and able of delivering this project, which will then meet the objectives that they're paying for.
So with a grant, it expects you to do something, a project. So you must have a beginning and an end, and you must deliver something, deliver outcomes. Now, whether what you are delivering... Are you ready for us to write the grant? It's not about whether we have the capacity necessarily to write your grant in that time frame. We could do that, but we would need everything from you up front to be able to do it in that time. And a lot of people are not ready, they're not grant ready when they want to make an application. Now, I often get phone calls with people saying, I've been told I can get a grant, I should be applying, can I get a grant? I always run them through the same few questions. So the first question is, what kind of an entity are you? What kind of an organisation? Grants aren't for individual people. They are for either a business, a company, a sole trader would be fine, but a business, a legal entity, or a not-for-profit organisation, a charity, or government. So a local government, a state government. So you have to be an organisation. So the first question is, what kind of an organisation are you? Where are you located? So we can have a look and see which grants you might be eligible for. The second question I ask when someone says, can they get a grant, is what is it exactly you're going to spend the grant funding on? So what is your project? Grant funding is for projects. So it's for something that has a beginning, an end, and an outcome. It has benefits. Another point to note about grants is obviously the application process varies considerably in size, complexity, what it is they're asking you to do. They vary quite a bit, and that generally does indicate how much money you're going for. It helps to ask before you submit, if my application fails, what do I think the reason is going to be? So are there any areas where I think my application is weak? If you ask yourself these questions, you might come up with something. You might think, oh, well, it's a little bit, it doesn't meet it really in this area, or the organisation's a bit new, or whatever the situation might be. When you think of those areas, think about whether or not you can strengthen them. So if they're a little bit weak, or if there's a reason you think you might fail, go back and see if you can address that in any way. So a business case is not something that everybody needs. A business case is only needed if you are pitching for something. You are wanting the approval to use the resources, you're wanting approval to get funding, to do something, a specific project or program. So as you probably would know, Whitney Consulting, that's what we do. We write grants, we write tenders, we write business cases. We've been pretty busy lately writing a lot of business cases for projects because people are seeking funding directly from government. And you need a business case to do that. Now, grants are not all the same. They can be, some of the terminology used is they can be open or closed. The difference there is an open grant is open to anyone. So anyone who is eligible for that grant can apply. Whereas a closed grant is one that is targeted. So it is one that is sent specifically to certain organisations, and they are the only ones who are allowed to apply for that grant. So the money might be set aside.
So a funding agreement governs how the project is run and how the money can be spent. So what that means is it's really, really, really important.
Because you need to prove to the part of the grants assessors, you need to prove that your problem exists, and you need to prove that your project will solve the problem. So what does grant ready mean? It means you need to know exactly what you're doing. So there's a few things that you need to do to be grant rounds. So the first thing to be grant ready is to get yourself notified of any grant programs that are coming up, any grant programs that are open, all of that sort of stuff. So to start off with, what is a grant? So a grant is money that is given out for a specific purpose. So it's not money that you have to give back. It's not a loan. It is money that you don't have to pay back. You have to use it for what you said you were going to use it for. So you don't have to.
Now, when we are writing our grant applications, we must be aware that it is a sales pitch. It is a persuasive writing exercise. So for all of you that have kids in primary school and they're doing persuasive writing, that's exactly what your grant writing application needs to be. It's a persuasive writing exercise to sell your project to the grant funding bodies. But the most important way to sell your project is to make sure that the results of your project, the outcomes or the benefits of doing your project, match or align to the grant program objectives. Every grant program has a set of grant guidelines that will talk about what the program objectives are. It will say the grant program objectives or the aims of the grant or the intended outcomes of the grant program are, and it will detail what they are intending to get out of the grant program. That's the why they are giving money away. That's what they're talking about when they say the grant program objectives or intended outcomes. You need to match the benefits and the results of your project to those objectives.
And then you need to have a look at the grant and decide whether that grant program will pay for those outcomes that you are delivering. So have a look and see what it is. Why is this grant program exist? Why are they giving away money? And will they be interested in giving away money to me? Will my project be of interest to them? You can call the funding body, you can ask them, but you can also have a look at the grant guidelines, which will tell you why they are giving the money away, what the grant is for, and think about your project and what your project will deliver and see whether or not the two align. You don't need to pay for grant applications information, but there are paid programs out there. So there are paid databases that you can search. There are things like that you can look at. If you are looking to pay, and as I said, you don't need to, all of the information is freely available. The issue is just compiling it all and getting it all into the one place and getting the information you need. But if you are looking to pay, probably the best one out there is called Grant Guru, Guru. That can provide you with a whole range database to search. It can also do so if you're an organisation. So if you're a local government, you can pay for a local government membership to the Grant Guru, and it comes up with local government grants available for you. Now, Whitney Consulting, the other place you can look to for getting this information is grant writing companies. So as a grant writing company ourselves, Whitney Consulting, we have a mailing list. So once a month, beginning of the month, every Thursday, we put out a newsletter which says, here are all the grants that are open, and here are all the ones that are coming up in the next month or so. And we send that out to people who are on our email list, and that saves them so much time, and they've got some really good feedback on that, because it's so helpful just to have one place which says, here's all the grants that are open, here's all the ones that are coming up.